My name is Olivia, and I'm 52 years old. I'm a wife, a stepmother, but I suppose I've become something more now. What I'm about to share with you changed me in ways I never anticipated. Make sure to subscribe to my channel so I can continue bringing you more fascinating true stories like this one. And don't forget to watch this video till the end because this story is going to be incredibly interesting. I still vividly recall the day Daniel, my husband, mentioned it during dinner. "Olivia, I think it would be good for James to stay with us for a while," he said so casually, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. James, his son from a previous marriage, was wrapping up his first year of college and was looking for a fresh start. The plan was for him to move in temporarily, get settled, and figure out what came next. I was more than willing to embrace my role as his stepmother, especially since Daniel had raised James to be respectful and responsible. I thought I knew what to expect, but life, as it often does, had other plans in store for me. When James finally moved in, something about him felt different. I had seen him at family gatherings and during the occasional holiday visit, but this time was unique. He was no longer the shy teenager I remembered. He had transformed into a young man with a presence that seemed to fill the room, a quiet confidence that was both comforting and, strangely enough, unsettling. At first, I tried to dismiss it as nerves, telling myself it was simply the awkwardness of adjusting to having someone new in the house. But each day, I began to notice small things, the way his gaze lingered on me a little longer than necessary, the subtle smile that would appear when he caught me watching him. It wasn't just that, though. It was how he moved through the house, as if it was his home, as if he had always belonged here. There was this unspoken energy between us, something I couldn't ignore. One evening, everything changed. I remember it so clearly. Daniel had gone to bed early, exhausted from a long day. I was in the kitchen, cleaning the counters and putting things away, enjoying the quiet calm of the house. That's when James walked in. He was looking for a late-night snack, but the way he looked at me, his gaze soft and warm, made me freeze in place. We stood there, only a few feet apart, the kitchen light creating a soft, intimate glow around us. I felt my heart race for a moment. I didn't know what to say. The air between us felt thick, charged with something unspoken, both thrilling and terrifying. He seemed to sense it too. His eyes locked with mine, a quiet intensity that seemed to search for something we hadn't been aware of until that moment. Then he smiled slowly, almost hesitantly, but it made my pulse quicken. "It's nice having you around, Olivia," he said in a low, sincere voice. I couldn't help but smile back, feeling something stir inside me. After that, I couldn't deny the shift in how I felt around him. Every interaction became charged with something deeper, every glance, every shared smile seemed to remind me of the connection between us. I found myself lingering in rooms a little longer when he was around, brushing past him with a subtle touch, exchanging lingering looks. I'd catch myself smiling, my thoughts drifting to moments that felt innocent but were laden with unspoken possibility. One night, I found myself standing outside his room, the weight of everything I had been holding back pressing down on me. It was late, and the house was quiet, with the darkness amplifying every sound, every soft step I took. I inhaled deeply, unsure of why I had gone there, but something told me I couldn't ignore this moment. I knocked gently on the door, the sound barely breaking the silence. "James," I whispered softly, my voice barely audible. There was a pause, then the door opened. He looked at me with that same warmth in his eyes, that same softness that had caught me off guard the first night in the kitchen. In that instant, I knew there was no turning back. Standing there in the dim light of the hallway, with the glow from James's room behind him, I felt a nervous flutter in my chest, reminding me of my younger days, of first loves and shy glances. It was surreal, exhilarating in its own quiet way. "James," I whispered, unsure of what to say. It's strange how moments like these make your mind race with 1,000 thoughts while simultaneously freezing everything in place. I searched his eyes, hoping he could understand what I was feeling without me having to say a word. He gave a slight nod as though sensing my hesitation and stepped aside to let me enter. I walked into his room, the scent of his cologne lingering in the air, a fresh, subtle fragrance that seemed so distinct distinctly his. My heart raced, but there was also a strange sense of calm as I sat on the edge of his bed, him sitting beside me, close but not too close. A respectful distance that still hinted at something more. "You seem different, Olivia," he said softly, his gaze meeting mine, "like you're carrying something heavy." His words cut through me more perceptive than I had expected. I took a deep breath, barely able to meet his gaze. "I guess maybe I am," I whispered, my voice soft. I had never shared so openly with anyone, not even with Daniel, but with James. In that moment, it felt right, as if a secret I had been holding was finally ready to be released. He reached out gently, covering my hand with his, and I felt a warmth spread through me, a gentle reassurance. "You can talk to me, you know," he murmured. "I'm here, and I'll listen." And that was the moment everything changed. It was like breaking down a dam. I hadn't intended to let my guard down so completely, but the words just poured out. I told him how lonely I'd been, how the role of being his stepmother, of being Daniel's wife, sometimes felt suffocating, as though I had to live up to an ideal I wasn't sure I could maintain. I didn't tell him everything, of course, but enough to let him truly see me and my desires. They pushed me past all limits, and I kissed him fiercely. For those 10 minutes, we forgot everything, the relationship, the boundaries, all of it. His hands moved across my chest and back, lingering as if he had been waiting for this moment too. In the days that followed, we developed an unspoken bond. Our interactions were subtle, cautious, but there was a softness in the way we looked at each other, a spark I knew he felt too. Every shared glance, every fleeting touch became a silent promise, a reminder of what we shared. Then, one rainy afternoon, things took another step. Daniel had been called away for a business trip, and I found myself alone with James. The rain outside created a cozy, almost secluded atmosphere, amplifying the quiet intimacy that had been growing between us. I sat by the window, watching the rain, when I heard him approach. He took a seat beside me, our shoulders almost touching. We sat in silence for a while, watching the raindrops slide down the glass, feeling the closeness that lingered between us. "Can I ask you something?" He finally spoke, his voice soft, almost tentative. I nodded, turning to face him, feeling my pulse quicken. "Of course," I said, though I wasn't sure what was coming. "Have you ever felt?" He hesitated, searching for the right words. "Like there was something in your life that you wanted but you couldn't reach?" I swallowed, feeling my cheeks flush. "Yes," I said quietly, almost to myself, more than to him. He looked at me with that same intensity. "I don't want to overstep, Olivia," he said softly, "but I want you to know I'm here. Whatever it is you're feeling, I feel it too." My heart raced. This was real. We were acknowledging something we had both been too afraid to say before. As he leaned in, his hand resting on mine, I knew we were crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed. He gently moved his hands towards my thighs, his face so close I could feel the warmth of his breath. I couldn't hold back, and we kissed again. This time, there were no limits, no hesitation, just pure desire. We sat there for a moment, locked in the quiet intensity of the moment. The gentle hum of the rain outside seemed to echo the rhythm of my racing heartbeat. Time felt like it stood still. There was no one else in the world in that moment, just James and me, with our unspoken desires shimmering between us like electricity. But just as we were losing ourselves in each other, a noise from outside interrupted. Startled, I pulled away, my heart pounding as I looked toward the window. Through the rain-speckled glass, I saw a shadow moving near the back of the house, but it quickly disappeared into the darkness. James looked at me, his eyes flickering with concern. "Did you see something?" "I'm not sure." I shook my head, my mind racing. "I'm not sure." "Maybe it was nothing," I replied, though part of me couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't alone. Our stolen moment was cut short, and the atmosphere between us shifted. I could feel the weight of what we had just done sinking in. The line we had crossed was hanging between us, thick with uncertainty. I pulled my hand away, glancing nervously at the window as I tried to steady my breathing. "We shouldn't have," I stammered, the reality of the situation sinking in. But even as I said it, I couldn't deny the pull I felt toward him, the desire that had taken root and refused to let go. James reached for my hand, his touch gentle and reassuring. "Olivia, I know this is complicated, but I can't pretend this isn't real," he said softly. I looked up at him, feeling torn between the part of me that wanted to let go and the part that knew this could never truly work. "James, this could change everything," I said, my voice shaky. He nodded, his expression serious. "I know, but I'd rather have this, even if it's just a secret, than spend another day pretending it doesn't exist." Those words lingered in my mind long after he left the room. In the days that followed, I found myself drawn to him even more. We were careful, cautious with each other when Daniel was around, who remained blissfully unaware of the growing connection between his wife and son. Every shared glance, every subtle touch when no one was looking, became a silent promise, a reminder of what we had shared. One evening, as Daniel was out for the night, James and I found ourselves alone in the house once more. This time, there was no hesitation as he closed the distance between us, his arms wrapped around me, pulling me into a kiss. His touch was warm, and his embrace felt like protection, a shield against the whirlwind of emotions we had unleashed. We spent hours that night talking, sharing secrets, laughing, and letting down walls we didn't even know we had built. It felt as though we were creating our own world, a private sanctuary where we could be ourselves without the constraints of the roles we were supposed to play. As the night wore on, we lay together, his hand resting lightly on mine, as we gazed at the stars through the window. For the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace, a quiet contentment that I hadn't known in years. It was in that moment that I realized just how deeply I had fallen for him, how irrevocably our lives had changed. But as dawn began to break, reality started to creep back in. There was no escaping the fact that this was a secret we would have to carry, a love that would forever remain hidden in the shadows. Just as we were about to say our quiet goodbyes, a soft knock came at the door. My heart raced as I looked at James, panic flashing in his eyes. Daniel's voice called from the hallway. "Olivia, are you in there?" In an instant, the fragile world we had built came crashing down, and the weight of what we had done settled heavily in the air. We were left with the stark reality that secrets, no matter how carefully kept, always have a way of coming to light. "Olivia," Daniel's voice echoed from the hallway. My heart raced. I glanced at James, who gave me a quick nod of reassurance before slipping silently out the back door. I took a deep breath, steadying myself, and went to the door to greet my husband. Thankfully, he didn't seem to suspect anything, just tired from his night out and eager to settle in. The days that followed were filled with stolen glances and discreet touches whenever Daniel wasn't around. James and I became experts at hiding our connection, turning every mundane moment into a secret thrill. When we would pass each other in the hallway, he'd brush his hand lightly against mine, a barely there touch that sent a thrill down my spine. The anticipation, the tension,